Now we go to the page 4 in this booklet. Page 4 or no, page not 4. Page 5. Page 5 we go here. Here, page 5. Yeah. Okay, and now we are in the fifth, I think. Fifth, sixth, yeah, fifth train of the mind, or fifth of the what's called? No, what's the name here? It's fifth. Fifth, yeah, train of the mind. Fifth train of the mind. Yeah, a train of the mind. Or is in a generally by the teaching, often in the Hondo practice known as the renunciations. So is a renunciation is, as I said, generally this is also essence based upon the essence of the teachings of the Four Noble Truths. Not just only this is based on the Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths is the first teaching of our gracious teacher Buddha Shakyamuni gave in Varanasi, or the now modern term called Sarnath, the Deer Park. He gave that. But that teaching, that Four Noble Truths, the teaching is the foundation of all the teachings of Buddha gave. So Dzogchen teaching is also based on the Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths is not just a kind of or just is like lower teachings, all that. Because this Four Noble Truths is what? Is teachings on the cause and the result, or cause and effect. Cause and effect. Samsara has a cause, and the samsara has an effect, or it is a result called samsara effect. And nirvana has a cause, and it has an effect. Or that. So nirvana is completely based upon the cause and effect or system of, and the samsara is completely based on the cause and effect. Where cause and effect are working together is like magic display. That magic display is in Buddhism or in Buddha teaching named interdependent coordination or interdependent interconnections. Working. Where interconnections is working, if you think of the observer that how it's observing, there's nothing we can pinpoint. It's all magical display. Where, for example, when we plant the seed, its explorer comes, and all the result comes. But how that happening? In the Buddha teaching, all those great big philosophers said you cannot pinpoint how shifting from the core seed to the sprout. Of course, we see the growth level, but subtle things, how shifting things. And that is also not just happening only because of the seed and then the soil and fertilizers or whatever those are. Four elements or 5 elements actually. Not just happening. There's so many factors we don't detect, all supported to happen that. Each of that has also so many particles. So therefore, what great teacher Buddha Shakyamuni said, where things happening, the interconnection is like magic display. What great Master Nagarjuna said, because why is happening, is because of emptiness. There's no substantial, solid existing. Solid, concrete, solid existing, therefore is changing. When it's changing, there is space. If there is no space, never going to change. But we don't detect the space by our eye. There is a space. All that is where it's coming is a magical display. This is what the external things. All that. So all that, everything, samsara is core and a condition, and it is a result. Happening as magically through the connection, interconnection, or interdependence. And the nirvana realization and the display and all that nirvana displays and the sambhogaya display, Pure Land is also cause and a condition and effects. That also happens as magical displays. There's no substantially solid entity at all, both in samsara and nirvana. So that is the foundation of the gracious teacher Buddha gave the teaching. This teaching, Four Noble Truths, the teaching is known as the extraordinary teachings of the gracious teachers, not other great masters or the other schools, the different schools, did not explain plain the way things happening, how there is a magical display. All that. So therefore, this realization, this, for example, in this case, the 7 train of the mind, the first 5 is mainly focused on the teachings on the first 2 noble truths among the 4 noble truths. Suffering truth, cause of suffering truth. This last 3 is mainly explaining of the 3rd and 4th noble truth. That what that is. Cessation truth and path truth. This 5th, the train of the mind, the liberation will never reverse back to the samsara or the like smallpox, it cools from the smallpox, is cessation truth. Cessation means what? In the Sanskrit world, that is a nirvana. What ceased? Karma and emotions are ceased. Cessation. That is. And then, here translated, liberation. Also sometimes, in Sanskrit, this cessation is known as moksha. Moksha. That means, again, liberated. Liberated from where? Liberated from the emotions, such as ignorance, attachment, anger, and jealous, hatred, thought, and ego clinging combination. We are liberated. So that is cessations. And then now third, now not third, but 6th, the 7th is path truth. From this onward, all the way to the until the on the old teaching is path truth. Path truth. How to get this cessation truth? How to get liberation, that which never return back to the samsara or never coming back as cured from the cholera or the smallpox, because of following the path truth. Path truth. And that is whole teaching is really path truth. So therefore, for example, all the teachings of the Nahayana teaching is path truth. Is all path truth. And each explainer of the realization, the fulfillment, all that is a cessation truth. We change. Even the Dzogchen teachings is, of course, Dzogchen teaching is known as result yanas. Result yana, not causal yanas. Result yanas. But even though it's result yana, to reach that result status, you have to practice. You have to meditate. So practicing, following the teaching, instructions from the lineage, following that is path truth. Then that will bring the realization of the cessation truth or the enlightenment or rainbow bodies. So that is generally idea of this. Then yesterday I mentioned that this result of the liberation. I said there are 3 liberations. That is Sharvakayana, and as is Partak Bodhayana, and Bodhisattvayanas. Those are 3 liberations. But among that 3 liberations, which is forever? Which liberation is forever? Ever is Buddhahood. Buddhahood is forever. There is no change at all. And first, this Charvaka liberation and the Partak Buddha liberation, even you are not returning back to the samsara, but still according to Mahayana, you have to follow the more practices because you're not completely purified all the obscurations. And what that means, all the obscurations. I'm sure you know, many of you already know, I know that. There is a true obscuration in the teaching mentioned. True obscuration. Emotion obscurations and knowledge obscurations. This Charvakayana and the Patibudayana purify the emotion obscurations. Knowledge obscuration is not completely purified. Knowledge obscuration is not completely purified. Therefore, what their achievement or realization of arhatahood is not something that forever. Again, in order to discover the enlightenment, true nature, exactly as it is, you have to follow the path of the Mahayana, and then we reach the enlightenment, exactly as a Buddha. So therefore, that the first true liberations, even though liberated from the samsara and negative emotions, but there's still knowledge obscurations. What is the knowledge obscurations? That is generally, knowledge obscuration is the foundation of all the obscurations. Knowledge obscuration, ever use the word clinging. Clinging is knowledge obscurations. Clinging. So for example, Charvakayana and the Patibudayana, they have still clinging to the nirvana. At least they're clinging to the nirvana. They like to be certain attitude, I like to be free from the suffering, free from the samsara. I'm not going to associate with the samsara. I'm not going to associate with the world. Now I'm going to be peaceful myself, or be peaceful. That attitude, which is they fulfill the goal, but still attachment, still grasping, clinging. So that is, what is knowledge of obscuration is clinging, grasping. And the great master, Muhammad Rinpoche, all the great masters mentioned, what is the distinction between the emotion obscuration and knowledge obscurations? Emotion obscuration is just a particular selected obscurations, particular. And the knowledge is a general, all. They use example, emotion obscuration is, for example, if you say general, what that means? General, what the name of the tree, for example, tree. Tree is the name of every tree. It's not just one tree. And then, what is, for example, juniper? Juniper is one tree, selected tree among all the hundreds or thousand trees. So it's a juniper. And similarly, emotion obscuration is like selected, particular, as like junipers. Juniper trees among all the emotions. And knowledge obscuration is all obscurations. Wider. And what that is, pinpoint to that. And as I said, is clinging, attachment, the clinging. Clinging is the fundamental source of all the emotions. Emotions. Yeah. So that is kind of roughly idea that. So that's it. And now also that is really about the, so therefore when we practice and meditate and with confidence, with joy,